Welcome back, everybody. This is episode 31 of the Clappercast. I'm Sean,
And I'm Burke.
and we're recording this on December 2nd, 2019. We spent a lot of time last week talking about the big news at the time where Mike Babcock got fired out of Toronto, and stuff had started breaking about how he was kind of mentally and emotionally abusing Mitch Marner with some of his tactics. And throughout the last week, even more stuff has started to pop up, and it's kind of culminated in today an interview with Chris Chelios came out on Spit and Chicklets, and he talked about how Babcock basically berated and verbally assaulted Johan Franzen on the Red Wings bench one time to the point that Franzen had a nervous breakdown. And this is kind of like um, according to Franzen himself, like that is just the tip of the iceberg with what type of things Babcock did to him and that he saw Babcock do. So it's pretty scary to think like that's just the tip of the iceberg. Like what the hell went on behind the scenes, right?
Yeah, because apparently that nervous breakdown continued off the ice after the game, and Franzen is a guy who's experiencing tremendous post-concussion symptoms in his life now. So it's possible he was dealing with that at the time and just too much stress and, having a coach berate you and you're not
Oh,
feeling
he
well. And
absolutely was because this was while he was dealing with the concussion too. Like he was already injured but still playing, I think.
man, what does a guy got to
Yeah,
do?
exactly. I can't. I was kind of speechless reading about that, and then I saw friends and comments after, like he said, yeah, it happened, and there was worse. Like where exactly do you go from there? Like how do you make it worse? And I don't know if I want to know that.
I don't know, maybe he stabbed him a little bit or something. That would
Ugh,
be worse.
yeah.
Yeah, so pretty shitty, but luckily for Babcock, there's another coach who is kind of trying to outduel him a little bit. That's
Yeah,
of
Bill
course
Peters had
Bill
a good week.
Peters. Yeah, yeah. If you call losing your job a good week.
Yeah, the night we recorded our last episode, right before we started, Akeem Alou had pretty much just come out and said, or revealed what Bill Peters had said in the locker room one day. And we kind of waited. I didn't mention that during the episode, I don't think, because we were
No.
kind of waiting to see where that went.
Mm,
But now it's been investigated, confirmed that he did use racist slurs in the locker room, and even more after that, he was physically assaulting or physically abusing players on the bench. The notable one that came out was Mikael Jordan, who was kicked in the back on the bench one time, and apparently he also punched a guy in the head who I don't think that player came forward yet. It's kind of his
yeah,
story to
I don't
tell, so
know.
they're not gonna say it. They're gonna wait for him to do that if he wants to.
Hmm.
But multiple players have corroborated that this happened.
Brindamore
So
did too.
yeah, Brendan Moore too.
Yeah, so it's kind of a pass the buck situation where everybody's trying to say like, yeah, it happened, and I tried to bring it up the chain and was told, we'll deal with it, and nothing really panned out. And um, years later, it's up to the Calgary Flames to try and make sense of it all, and they weren't even the team he was part of at the time.
No,
And I want to say that the Calgary Flames actually did a pretty commendable job in this whole situation.
I think they did.
They took a step back. They didn't make Peters available for comment the night of the accusation. They removed him from the team. They did an investigation. They didn't just you know, instantly fire him. They did a thorough investigation. They talked to Akeem Alou. They talked to everybody else involved, and then they made a decision. And actually, I guess they pretty much forced his hand to resign.
Yes, because it wasn't actually. I don't think it was an official firing. It was a you're quitting,
No,
so we
yeah.
don't have to pay you anymore.
Yeah, I'm sure that there was a lot of legal
Yeah,
ramifications, and that's
which I'm
probably why
pretty
it
sure
took
that's
some time
why
too.
exactly why their investigation took a few days was because they're trying to find the legal loopholes and how to make sure this is all like employment law wise okay,
Mhm.
and which clauses, which contract clauses they can exercise in this case.
Yeah. Yeah, it was probably complicated because he wasn't employed by the team at the time, so
Hmm.
how can they dismiss him for something that he did somewhere else? So it
Yeah,
was probably
I think
a
I heard
bit
a
of
lot
a
of talking about morals clauses in their contracts.
mm.
That
Right.
was
And
kind of
like
where Brian Burke and Elliot Friedman were talking about one night, and
representing the
that seemed to be the
franchise
focus.
values.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, quickly, his apology letter to Treliving was ridiculous. So in the middle of this
Terrible.
investigation, Bill Peters wrote an apology not to Akim Aliu, but to the GM of the Flames. He used the terms 10 years ago or a decade ago, something to that
Yes.
effect.
Yeah, it was a
It was
decade ago.
very
He had to make it a point.
disingenuous. It was such a
He said
insincere apology.
he said I meant no disrespect, which like what do you expect to happen out
Yeah,
of
calling
using
a
racist
black
slurs?
player the N word. Yeah, that's no disrespect, bro.
Good point.
So, I meant no disrespect. No disrespect, bro. It
Yeah.
was just a prank, bro.
Like
Like,
what does that even mean? Like you meant no disrespect. Like what did you mean from that?
yeah, and like maybe pass that apology along to that guy that I said that to. It was so phony, and if he had
Very.
somebody else write it, they did a terrible job. It was very pathetic. If that was his attempt at saving face, it was not a very good one.
You keep like reading more and more comments, and like there's more and more little kid like segments of it, little statements and few words that just make less and less sense as you read other people's interpretations of it.
Hmm. Yeah.
And it's just it was just a very, like you said, insincere, like disingenuous, just didn't touch on what actually he did or what like the significance of what he was doing.
No, not at all. It was very out of touch and very phony. So yeah, that was pretty dumb. But again, I think the Flames did a excellent job in their handling of the whole situation. Removing him from games, removing him from practices, transitioning in that temporary coach, who I don't remember his name. Do you remember his name? Who the new coach is?
I believe it
Interim
was Jeff
coach.
Ward.
Right. Yeah. That rings a bell.
Yeah, he's the interim head coach right now. So he's not like their official new coach, but depending if the Flames turn it around after, because they kind of went on a bit of a difficult stretch here. If the team turns it around and starts doing well through the rest of the season, I'm sure he'll be the next head coach. But for now, he's just the interim.
Yeah. So I mean, out of all the times for this to happen to the Flames, it's not the worst time because the team has been struggling and getting
There
somebody
were
else
talks
at
of
the
coaching
helm
change
is,
regardless.
yeah. So I mean, they lost a few games in a row. I can't remember the exact number, but they lost enough for it to be discussed before this whole thing came out. So it's like I said, there's never really a good time to fire a coach, but um, it was very coincidental that this happened when the team was struggling because it would have been a lot harder to have done if the team was doing very well and succeeding like last year.
Yes.
So at least there's that. If you're a Flames fan, it's a little bit of a silver lining. um,
The good
but
thing to
yeah,
come out of all of this.
it's kind of crazy because was he not in contention for the Jack Adams last year? Like he was at least discussed, like mentioned. I
I
know he
thought he was,
wasn't a
yeah.
finalist, but he,
I mean, I talked about him doing that because of the turnaround the team had between seasons.
yeah, he's only been there since the beginning of last season, right?
I believe so. He
So
came
very
over because
short
that was,
tenure.
yeah, because he came over that summer with all the other Hurricane players, I think.
Yeah, so the Calgary Flames have had kind of a whirlwind of coaches since Sutter now, right?
They've recycled. They've gone quite a few because it was said Sutter went to Hartley, had Peters, and now Jeff Ward.
So yeah, Daryl Sutter, Bob Hartley, who did win a Jack Adams there, and then got fired the next year. So I guess
Oh,
it's
and
not really
Gulletson.
a great thing. Yeah, Gulletson throwing shit
Did I
into
say
the
Daryl
fan.
Sutter? Or did I say
Uh,
Sutter? I can't.
I don't know, but yeah, Daryl Sutter.
Not Daryl. It was Brent.
What? No, Daryl Sutter was the coach there.
Like, yeah, a longer time ago.
Yeah, so I was saying since him, they've had just a shit ton of coaches.
Including a different Sutter.
Yeah.
Okay, that's okay. I thought we were going from the second Sutter, not the first one. Got it.
Oh, yeah, wrong Sutter.
Yeah.
And speaking of the Sutters,
Do we want to go? Do we want to go back and get the third one they've had as a head coach there too? But yes,
oh,
yeah,
and
because
Playfair too. Forgot
and Playfair,
Playfair and Keenan, another asshole. So they've had their share of coaches.
definitely.
Um, so yeah, the Sutters.
So they're not a whole lot's come out about them yet. I think I've heard that they're working on like a bigger story, kind of encapsulating the entirety of what the family's done and like the amount of covering up that's gone on in the junior levels to kind of cover what they've done to people.
mhm.
But I mean, it sounds like at least Daryl Sutter in the NHL was a bit of a borderline abusive, whatever. And whichever ones spent more time in the minors too, apparently,
Hmm.
have had stuff covered up by Hockey Canada and by the WHL.
Yeah, that would make sense if it was Brent Sutter, because he's been the coach of the Red Deer Rebels for a really long time. And he was the coach of Team Canada, wasn't he?
I cannot keep all of them straight. I don't know which one was which.
I
Clearly,
thought
I
it was
can't after
Brent.
that last conversation.
There's too
There's
many
too
damn
many.
Sutters. Yeah. I think um, Brent Sutter has been the coach in the dub for a long time. So I think it would make sense if it was him, but I mean there are so many brothers that it could be many of them. I haven't
Yes,
heard
this one
anything
this one is
about
Brent though in Red Deer.
right. Okay. Is that where Dan Carcillo played? Because this whole thing came out because he made a tweet, right, about this being a thing.
Yes. So actually, apparently Carcillo deleted the tweet that called out Brent Sutter.
Oh,
I'm trying to look into that one a little bit right now.
yeah. So Carcillo has got kind of a long history of being very vocal and abrasive on social media. He's 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 working to try and get people to realize the danger of head contact in hockey. But he goes about it in a very like I said, abrasive and very abrupt way,
Yeah.
which I think is turning a lot of people off of what his message is, which is something that's super important. And he's,
And it
he
also
can be,
sucks because a lot of people look at him delivering the message and are like, "Oh, well, you were a dirty pest in the NHL, so your points are clearly invalid." And they dismiss him entirely without seeming to understand that people can change.
mhm,
And like he's kind of realized like the dangers of what he's done, what he's been doing, and he's working his ass off to change his, well, to make amends for it basically,
mhm.
and to kind of fight for the other side. And like he gets dismissed a lot because of that, and also because of like you said, he's pretty upfront and abrasive about it,
Yeah,
but he's delivering an important message that we need to kind of take the message and separate it from the delivery and realize like you should probably listen to him to some extent here.
yeah, yeah. So it looks like Carcillo mentions that Daryl Sutter, when he was with LA for a brief stint, was an absolute piece of crap. Um, in his opinion. So just like verbally abusive, kicking guys on the bench in the back, that sort of stuff, and not letting them eat on the flight home after a loss, that sort of stuff. So not nice stuff, but yeah, I haven't seen anything specifically about anybody in junior, but um, with the Sutters' long time affiliation with the NHL and junior hockey, it wouldn't be out of the question for Hockey Canada to try and cover that up because
Yeah, because
hockey is
they're kind of
very
one of the
traditional.
main hockey families in the country, especially at the face of that kind of old school generation.
Yeah, hockey's pretty old school
Yeah.
and
Well,
traditional, and it's no one wants to go against the grain, and it's kind of coming up now where people are willing to take a step forward and let people know about what their experiences were under these type of
yeah,
coaches.
and it's also it's like you can be a hard ass coach. You can ride your players harder, you can demand more of them, like that's fine, but it crosses the line with what's coming out about like Babcock and Peters and the Sutters and Crawford, Mark Crawford too. We'll talk about him in a minute.
Hmm.
that these guys are physically, verbally, mentally, and emotionally abusing and manipulating their players. Like that's where like there's a line in there, and these guys are crossing it big time.
Yeah, it seems like they've got just one move in their toolbox, and that move is just being an asshole to the
Yeah.
players. Um, one thing that I heard this season of kind of like a hard-nosed coach was Joel Quenneville in Florida in one of their
Hmm.
games where they were down like 5-0 by the second or by the first intermission or second intermission or something. He just didn't even come into the room, and the players knew, oh shit, this must be bad if he's not even coming in.
Yeah,
And that just sent a message. And then they came
it
back
does.
and tied it up, and they ended up winning that game. It's like you don't have to come in
And like
and yell and call
that
everybody an expletive. You can just
exactly.
you can say more by actually saying less. Like
And you can
you get
send
your
the
point
same type of
across.
message. You can get your point across, like that particular point, without being abusive.
Yeah.
Like not coming into the room is just an action. It's like that's not hurting anybody,
No.
but it does send the message that you guys need to figure your shit out.
Yeah. Yeah, not coming into the room and just blowing off the handle and throwing shit around.
That's more embarrassing, to be
It's
honest.
embarrassing to watch, and your players are gonna think like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? I don't want to win for this guy. But when he doesn't come in the room, you're like, I'm disappointing this man right now. I'm disappointing the
Yeah.
coach.
And
Like,
okay, and you brought up Quenneville. Throughout all of this too, we haven't heard Quenneville's name come up once in any of these discussions as anything but one of the better ones that everyone's played for. And he seems to have found that ground. I think he's kind of a player's coach, but he's also a tougher coach. He seems to have found a decent middle ground in all of that.
mhm,
And for him to, not be in any of these discussions is a pretty good testament to like how good of a coach he's been
right,
over the
and for how
last
long
decade
he's
here.
been around, yeah. He's been
Exactly.
around for a long time. Another one that kind of seems that way is Gerard Gallant, kind of that
Yeah.
hard-nosed, tough players type coach. He's very animated on the bench, just
Yeah,
like
and I've
Quenneville is, but nothing's haven't heard anything but great things about him.
no.
Um,
If anyone deserves to be left in an away city and call him a cab to the airport, it's probably not Gallant.
yeah, don't even call him a
Like
cab.
we've got a list of people here, and like any one of them can probably get that treatment.
Yeah, yeah, um, yeah. It's strange that yeah, Tortorella is another guy. We've heard that he's an asshole a lot, but it's more like to
Hmm.
the media and to certain individual players, like the thing he did
Yeah,
with Luongo. Yeah, that's
yeah.
a
So
Babcock type move.
I feel like there's going to be something about him from his past. Be, just the way like how hot-headed he seemed and the way he's kind of presented himself in the public eye, I can only imagine in the private eye. But
Hmm.
from the sounds of it, he's also done a lot of kind of self-reflection and changing the way he acted when he went to Columbus. That he hasn't been nearly as abrasive, nearly as I'm just going to say the word bad just because I can't think of a better one right now, but he's really improved on himself, and that's why he's
Yeah.
lasted so long in Columbus. And like, yes, he does tend to pick his favorites. He does have his like guy in the doghouse every year, but
Hmm.
not nearly to the extent that it was in his last couple of gigs.
Yeah, and he's got the same type of team. He's got the same mentality. He's just modernized his tactics. Like he's not. I mean, this is all from the outside perspective. Maybe he's been the same way the whole time with his team, but it looks like he has softened up a bit, but still having the same overall mentality of
Hmm.
like that hard, gritty block shots type of team, which is the right way to do it rather than try and play weird mind games with players and
Yeah,
kick the shit out of them. What's that doing to help?
you think about the little situations when like you get mad and like kick like a couch or a pillow or something, and then you think about someone doing that like they're just walking back and forth on the bench and they're just kicking their like players, other human beings in the back for whatever reason. Like
Yeah.
where like what exactly like where do you get off doing that and thinking it's okay? Like you need to learn how to manage your anger a bit better if that's what you're resorting to.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very strange. So to move on to Mark Crawford, who
Yes.
is currently working for the Chicago Blackhawks. He worked for the Kings. He worked for the Ottawa Senators, I believe, and then he's also the head coach of the Colorado Avalanche and the Vancouver Canucks. So he's been around, and um, I believe he's getting investigated because Sean Avery has claimed
Yes.
he got
Yeah,
kicked
Sean
by him.
Avery claimed he was being kicked while on the bench by Crawford.
Mhm.
And then this one's going back, but last year, Brent Sopel was again on an episode of Spit and Chicklets,
Mhm.
talked about being verbally and physically abused by Crawford
Yeah,
to the extent of being put in like a chokehold, being grabbed up and pinned up against a locker, stuff like that.
right.
So that's another pretty serious one. And I mean, we've known Mark Crawford's reputation for years, so this doesn't surprise me one bit that he's gotten lumped in here.
Hmm. No, not
So
surprising in
I
the
mean,
slightest.
no, and he's on the same. It seems like it's the same type of suspension slash leave that Peters got while he was being investigated. So 2, 3 days down the road, we're probably going to hear about Crawford's resignation.
Yeah, and um, Evander Kane had a tweet, and it was something I don't remember word for word, but basically said like don't lump Babcock in with Peters because it's not the same thing.
Yes.
I agree with that um, to a certain extent because yeah, being verbally abusive and being blatantly racist are different, but the effects on individual players are probably very similar, where you're creating a hostile environment to be in, and it's not okay. But at the end of the day, saying the N word and being an ass aren't the same thing.
Yes.
It's it's
Yeah.
shitty that we
And
have to distinguish that.
they're offenses of different severities and in different categories.
Yeah,
They're all bad. They are all
yeah,
completely unnecessary, totally uncalled for, but
yeah. That's
they represent different categories of offenses.
yeah, and I'm not condoning what any of these coaches have done, but um, saying what Bill Peters said is like an instant firing in any position,
Yep.
anywhere in North America. Doesn't matter if you're working in sports or anywhere else. That's an instant firing. And being an asshole is not.
Yeah, not always.
um, there might be more of a discussion.
Yeah.
and and Crawford kicking players, I think kind of that kind of falls in the middle for me.
Well, the
Um,
physical part puts it over the edge
Physical,
to
yeah,
the point that like, yep, you're done. You don't lay your hands on another person in a violent manner like that. That's
yeah.
you're not going to get away with that in any public or working situation.
It's probably not a little
And
love
like,
tap kick either. It's probably a
no.
hard kick in the back.
And like the one of the things that I keep needing to remember too when putting this in context is that this is basically the equivalent of your boss physically and mentally abusing you at work.
Oh yeah, yep.
This is you just think about where you work and your direct supervisor now has permission to come by and like kick you while you're just sitting at your desk or whatever.
Yeah, like nice
And
turnover.
yeah,
Kick you.
it's like, oh, you sent that email too soon. I was come by and kick you or punch you in the head. Like that's not gonna fly anywhere. So, if, you know, I think it's fair for hockey teams to be held to the same standards as they are still employer-employee relationships. You alluded to this earlier too, and now that we're talking about different levels and different levels of the organization and stuff, but how about what we've kind of been able to piece together and interpret from Ron Francis and Ken Holland's play or roles in these situations?
Right.
How the players, how in Carolina with Bill Peters, it was the players went to Ron Francis.
I think so.
Yeah. Okay. So they went to Ron Francis, told him about it, and his response was apparently to pass it along to his superiors and then not do anything himself. And we don't even know if that's what actually happened because the Hurricanes owner at the time said he never heard anything about this.
Is that Fenton?
So someone's either lying or didn't pass it up the chain properly, but just the role of like that corporate hierarchy complacency
Yeah,
that
it's easy.
even though like Ron Francis, he does, like, I'm pretty sure the GM makes the coaching decisions, hiring and firing the coach, but he still just passed it along and didn't do anything about it himself.
Yeah.
So that's pretty bad to me, or bad look for him, that he just kind of apparently accepted this as fine and let it happen.
Yeah, because it is his
Um,
decision to make
yeah,
as general manager.
and also we were ripping on Tom Dundon last year for being so like hands-on and everything. Maybe it makes more sense now if he comes in, finds out about all this, and wants to make a better impression or set things straight. But that's all speculation on that end, so can't
Yeah.
really say or confirm or deny any of that part.
Yeah. And then Holland in Detroit. Apparently the players went to him to try and complain about Babs, and his response was to go down into the locker room and say, I'm supporting Babcock 100%. If any of you want to be moved, talk to me and I will
Yeah.
trade you.
And
So,
I'm just gonna clarify on that last statement that apparently, or according to Chris Chelios's recounting of it, it wasn't like a threat to be traded. It was like if you don't like that, then like come talk to me and I'll do what I can to trade you elsewhere.
yeah.
But that's still, you don't have to make it sound like a threat for it to be a threat. Because like what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen to that one guy who's like, yeah, I don't want to deal with this, and goes and asks for a trade? Like, how is
Yeah.
he gonna be looked at?
Yeah. Oh, there's no interest. We'll just bury you in the minors.
Exactly. And we know these guys have the ability to end careers.
Mhm.
We've heard the stories about what Babcock's done to guys to derail their shots at the NHL, and other players who've taken stands like Akeem Alou, who probably had his career impacted and his opportunities impacted by being the face of standing out against hazing and that type of stuff.
Yeah, you don't want to buck the grain in hockey culture 'cause it's super conservative and old school.
Yeah, but yeah, Holland's response, I mean, that's no better than Francis's, to completely not even listen to the players and like figure out what's wrong, just blindly support the coach.
Yep, it's that's just the way she goes, I guess, in the old school hockey world. Just
Yeah.
blindly follow.
So, I mean, at this point, I am very glad that all of this stuff is coming out, and I hope it continues to, because we need to see this. We need this type of stuff to like be in the public eye, to know how these people are actually being treated, and not to let people get away with being abusive, racist assholes behind the scenes just because they're in a position of minor power.
Yeah, exactly. In before no coaches are left in the NHL because they've all been all these allegations have come out. They all get fired.
Yeah, we're back to the days of the player coach now.
Yeah, Jack Eichel, it's already there.
Ooh, when the yeah, he's gonna be, the Buffalo Sabres are gonna be in an amazing position when the GMs start getting implicated in this too. Sabres already have player coach GM and potential owner Jack Eichel, so they aren't gonna have much of a transition.
Yeah, but what if one of those Jack Eichels is implicated? Then they all have to step down, and then they're left without a captain, a best player,
They've
coach,
got a shell of a
and
team, shell of an organization.
yeah, they have some pretty huge changes on their hands over there.
um, but yeah, you were just mentioning like the shock to hockey culture and kind of the old boys club and establishment, and just how it's traditionally been very conservative. Don't stand out, don't make a scene, like just keep your head down and keep going. But this stuff that's coming out at the NHL level is seeming to do well at going down the chains of different levels of hockey and hitting even the junior levels. Because we know like there's obviously issues with abusive and over the top coaches and parents at the junior and like minor league levels too.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and
So
minor.
even just in the last few days, stuff that's kind of come out big time. That's the Swift Current Broncos released their equipment manager slash head athletic trainer for what they call a recent increase in derogatory and demeaning behavior.
Oh,
They didn't say any more. There is no fanfare around that one, just the corporate statement. But
it's
there
fired.
was that, and this one was earlier this year that it kind of broke, but it never really made a big scene until again Dan Carcillo was putting out someone's story about this one. The University of Lethbridge women's hockey team had just an absolute terror of a coach who was just playing complete mind games and mentally abusing her players to the point of causing severe mental health issues and making fun of them to the players and just bullying the team. And she got released, and I think they're now in a bunch of lawsuits about it. But like that one came out bigger again as well with all of this type of stuff. So we're seeing another different level of hockey in university and junior. I'm sure there's going to be stuff in the AHL. This is kind of where this is kind of where Bill Peters's issue started.
Yeah.
But that's always regarded as kind of a tougher league. I put tough in air quotes because who knows what tough is anymore. But there's probably going to be more stuff that comes out down there too, especially with guys who are 5 years out of the league. Their NHL shots are done and have nothing left to lose, really.
I wanted to just point out that, yeah, you mentioned this stuff happens in every league of hockey and every sport, really. It's not
Yes.
just a
Yeah.
hockey thing. That I
Definitely not.
personally have had weird shit from coaches in minor hockey, as when I was even in like when I played Adam Select, there was some weird shit that coaches were doing back then. So kids who were like, what, 7 and 8, it's not an NHL exclusive
No.
experience to be bullied and abused by other players or other coaches or whatever. It's everywhere, and
Yeah.
it's good that people are bringing it up.
I hope it keeps getting talked about. Like doesn't just kind of die off in a couple of weeks or a couple of months like a lot of other things happen too. The other important thing is like it takes a long time for these types of cultures to build up, and it's going to take a long time for them to change and break down and be replaced with healthier, more productive ones. So there's going to be stuff still for a while. It's probably still going to happen, but you'd hope that over time, as more players kind of come up in this type of environment, that we're seeing and hearing about, for example, some teams in the CHL who do away with hazing. We see the example in the NHL with Boston, and Bergeron and Chara are just completely against it. They don't allow it to happen.
Yeah,
So,
and you see how
with those
successful they
examples on the
are.
big stage, exactly. We see those examples on the big stage, and you have to hope that that makes a positive impact on the lower levels, kind of going down the chain to the point where it kind of flushes a lot of that out.
It's gonna be a sad day when Chara retires.
Yeah, it really is. Him and he's become a staple, really.
He
Just
really
kind of
has.
expect him there, and seems like a really really good guy.
The Green Machine. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's such a nice guy. Uh, he is a huge part
I'll
of that
never
team.
forget because he got when he got his jaw broken last playoffs, right? He came back and like sat on the bench to
Yeah,
cheer his guys on, like just little things like that.
he's a different breed. Yeah, so I don't know, maybe that's enough of the abuse talk. Kind of dominating the last few weeks of the
Yeah,
NHL here, but meanwhile, teams have still been playing. Is there any
really.
storylines that
I've
you
only been
wanted
I've only been
to
following Twitter actually with coaching stuff.
well,
I
there's your
forgot the
problem.
NHL actually existed.
I've been over here watching games still.
Yeah, so I mean, honestly, the big two stories in terms of team performance over the last couple weeks here are going to be San Jose and Minnesota. So Minnesota's on a 6-1-3 streak in their last 10 games. They're 2 points out of a wild card spot right now. Um, this is just a fun little tidbit, but they're actually 7-1-2 at home. So I didn't realize that until like just now how much of a contrast there is between their home and away records, but it's pretty impressive.
Is Minnesota the team that retired number one for the fans?
I want to say they did something like that. That sounds like a Minnesota thing.
I think it's either that or they put the ice is made out of like water from all the lakes or something.
Yeah, it is Minnesota that retired number one.
Oh God, that's awful.
So,
I
good for
guess
them,
it's
good for them.
working.
Yeah.
Um,
And San Jose, the other one, I mean, we talked extensively about their horrible start. It kind of dominated the first month of our podcast, but now they're sitting in third in the wild card, or third in the Pacific Division, pardon me, with
mhm.
an 8-2-0 in their last 10, and they've kind of overtaken Calgary, Vegas, Vancouver, and Anaheim, I think, to get back to where they are. So they've turned around really quickly here.
Yeah, not too shabby. Um, it's gonna be tough in those middle spots to get a spot, I think. But um,
The
I
West is
also
really
think
competitive right now too,
that
in that wild card area.
Dallas and the Leafs have also been a bit of a story. So, I mean, we mentioned last time that Dallas is definitely turning it around, and they're looks like they're not really slowing down. They're winning a lot of games. They're 7-2-1 in their last 10. And Jamie Benn has kind of come back from the dead. He's like awoken from his slumber. He's been going pretty beast mode.
He got the
Um,
old man bones going.
and Tyler Sagan is putting up some numbers. So, no horseshit comments needed. They're getting some work done.
They kept that
Um,
behind the scenes this year.
yeah, as they probably should. And then the Leafs. So the Leafs have, since the coaching change, they've won 3 out of 4, and they've been playing good hockey, and they've been playing
They look
really
like the
well on the
team that we
power
would
play.
expect them to be now.
Yeah,
Watching them play, they've got that high-powered, skilled offensive team, and they look like a team that can do that.
yeah. And this is with Mitch Marner out too.
Yeah, they've been doing all of this offensive stuff, scoring a whole bunch of goals, like countering goals against back right away.
Hmm.
They've been looking good.
Yeah, so they're right back in it. They're 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 at 13, 11, and 4 right now, and they're 4-6-0 in their last 10. Since Babs was fired, they're 3-1. So the Sheldon Keefe era is looking good. It's only been 4 games, might have been 5. I don't know.
Just plan the
But
parade already, okay?
yeah, yeah, pretty much, pretty much. And then the one other team that I wanted to mention is the Montreal Canadiens. So they have lost 8 in a row. That is the first time they've lost 8 in a row since 1939, 1940, when probably half their team went to war. So
Yeah.
they are in a bad spot. They're still in the middle of the pack in the Atlantic, but Tampa's below them. They've got 3 games in hand. I don't know. I
The
think
Metro is really strong this year, so they're even farther back out of the wild card than they are of the divisional spots actually, which makes
yeah,
it even more
exactly.
difficult.
I think it's going to be like last year where they would have made it in the West, but they lost by like 1 point in the East.
Something like
It's
that, yeah. So
they
what's going
have.
on in Montreal?
I've watched a couple of their games because I picked up Dano in my hockey pool this last week because Montreal played on like every off night, and I don't know. Price was playing really bad. I think he had a sub 900 save percentage. He got lit up in that one game against Boston. I mean, maybe they're just playing some good teams because they have played Boston twice in a row, I think. Boston's just on fire, but I don't know what it is. They're in games and
Is
then
it
they're
just one of
not.
those things, like one of those slumps? Because I mean that can happen, and like 8 games isn't unreasonable for just a really bad stretch.
Yeah, I'd
But
want to
you
take a
can't let
look at
that go
their
on too long.
like their shooting percentages. Maybe they're just getting really unlucky. Maybe they're
Yeah.
shooting below career averages. But yeah, they've been struggling. And a
I
rumor
guess
came out
the other
today.
thing.
What's that?
Oh yeah, I was just gonna talk about the coach too.
Yeah, so this is from Georges Laraque, so I don't know if it's
Grain of salt.
yeah, that Bergevin met with Bob Hartley in Russia to discuss the possibility of coaching the Montreal Canadiens.
So Bergevin physically went to Russia,
That's what I saw.
or was that like a? So that's a pretty big commitment if he did.
Yeah, let me see if I can find. the tweet here. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, met Bob Harley in Russia.
So that's a pretty big commitment for someone who hasn't made
Oh,
the change yet. Like that's kind of Claude Julien's
he's
probably getting a bit sweaty there.
he's in Russia to speak with Alexander Romanov and
Okay,
his agents. So
got it.
he's there for other reasons as well.
He
But
didn't just literally
he's
fly to Russia to talk to Bob
yeah,
Hartley.
yeah, he's discussing multiple things on this trip, I guess.
Okay.
So yeah, Hartley's coaching in the KHL. Um, he's coaching Avangard Omsk. So yeah, I mean, he's a couple seasons removed from coaching in Calgary. I don't think he's been anywhere since. But yeah,
I mean, Hartley's one of those coaches that's like we were just talking about the tougher coaches to play for that kind of come in for a year or two, have some quick positive results, and then die off by year three. So that'd be kind of like a kick the group into shape right now, hopefully in healthy and positive ways
yeah.
after this discussion we just had today.
So
And then,
there's another little thing here is that another possible explanation is that Bergevin wants a scouting report on KHL players. He
okay,
wants like a more Western guy's opinion on it because Hartley has so much
okay,
experience in the NHL. So perhaps meeting with him
that's
to
a valid
discuss
reason.
players that he knows in the KHL.
Yeah,
But I believe I'm prone to believe the spicier rumor because of the drama.
yeah, and I
It's
mean it's a reasonable thought at this point after losing eight straight, you've fallen out of a playoff spot on a team that has realistically should be competing right now with how weak the rest of the division's been. And like
yeah,
if they didn't have this eight-game losing streak, they'd be comfortably in a divisional spot right now.
yeah,
So it's not unreasonable to suggest that Claude Julien's maybe reaching the end of his time in Montreal again.
yeah. Um, yeah. The Atlantic's really weak, but below Boston, it's a really big drop off. So I mean, they have time to make it up because the after the Bruins, it's the Panthers, Sabres, Maple Leafs, and then the Habs, and then the Lightning, and then the Senators and Red Wings, who aren't going to be surprising anybody this season. So
Are we sure?
I'm pretty sure.
Ottawa was looking good for a few games there.
Yeah, I still think that they're still just a team. I don't think that they're a good team.
Are they
Um,
a skating team yet though?
maybe. I mean, did you see the news about Borowiecki? They're a crime fighting team.
He's a good, yeah. Senators are going to be the good guys of hockey. Because it also, a couple hours later, news broke out that the Senators had extra food from their like practice or meeting in Vancouver. So they're
Oh,
like, okay, let's like give this out to people in need. So they
oh,
just kind of went
nice.
and handed out food around Vancouver.
Good guy, Senators.
Yeah, so good PR day for them.
Yeah, definitely.
Now just
Um,
keep Melnick like hidden away in a closet somewhere for the next week so we can enjoy it.
I saw a comment after all these coaches and staff member rumors and allegations coming out. People were saying like, okay, this is super important. Has anybody been abused by Eugene Melnick? Like this is very, very important.
Oh man,
Yeah. Um, so yeah, I think that the Canadians have time to turn around here, but I mean,
easily.
how long can they go in a losing streak before it's like, okay, let's do something about
You
this?
gotta shake, yeah, you gotta shake it up somehow. Well, I saw the other rumor is potentially looking at trying to trade for Taylor Hall
Ooh,
as the shakeup, which would be that'd be quite the change. That'd be quite the trade, I think. Go from New Jersey to Montreal,
yeah, that would be different. That would
and
be
by this point, I
spicy.
mean, it seems like New Jersey is going to trade Hall,
Mm,
so he's gonna need a suitor. So maybe if Bergevin still wants to keep Julien, he can look at making a splash in the trade market as a shakeup.
yeah, I mean they've got some cap space. Um, they tried that Aho offer sheet. They've got some room. I think if New Jersey retained a little bit of salary, they'd probably be able to make it work. I don't know what
For
they'd
sure.
have to send back, but
if I remember correctly, Montreal has a ton
Oh,
of draft picks coming up, I think. So
probably.
they would likely be able to put a package together of that.
Ooh, yeah, they
Yes,
do.
they've got a lot of their draft picks are in for later rounds at this point, but they're kind of at a point with their prospect pool as well that they could probably spare the first round pick for the year if they're looking for a rental.
Hmm.
Because let's be honest, Hall's getting a first round pick. If Ryan Hartman can get one, then Hall's getting that plus a prospect.
Yeah, I think a round one pick would be good. Especially because they've got two in round two this upcoming year.
Yeah,
So to get rid of that first, they still got the two. It's probably going to be like a mid to late first rounder anyway. So what's the damage in getting rid of that?
yeah. And then at this point, I mean, they do have three high tier center slash wing prospects in
Hmm.
Kotkaniemi, Suzuki, and Paling. That would probably be attractive trade pieces that one of them I think is probably expendable, depending if they're going to need all of them to play at center, because they already
Yes.
have Dano and Domi on the roster.
Yeah, Suzuki has been tearing it up a little bit.
Yeah, that would be a big decision to figure out which of those guys is the most expendable.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't watch enough Habs games or follow them enough to really understand who means more to the team. Um, yeah, that would be a tough call, very tough. But I think if you can get Taylor Hall, it would probably be worth it.
I think so.
One of the best wings in the game.
He would
Come
probably be a
into it,
good fit on a team like that too, because I think they're more of a faster team anyways.
yeah, come into a more complete team, one that has a real identity, not like New Jersey where it's like, what even is this team? You know, like
It's like team in middle of the rebuild where they don't actually have the ability to fill the roster from within, so it's just like a patchwork quilt of free agents and trades.
we're the team with the most Jespers.
Yeah, maybe that's the
Yeah.
plan. Most Jespers wins the Stanley Cup next year.
Well, then it's just going to be maybe just Barry Kotkaniemi will go over, and
Yeah,
they can
and
have
yeah,
a
Jesper Fast.
yeah. They'll just get a Jesper party. So yeah, that'd be interesting fit. What was the trade we were talking about a while ago where we thought Vancouver was going to be a good fit?
That was
Uh,
Tyson Berry.
Tyson Berry. Yeah, I don't think that's happening anymore.
Nope. So
I
that I think
think
with Barry's bounce back under Keefe here, that's probably firmly off the table.
yeah, I would say so. Um, although I think that it wouldn't be. Um, let me just take a step back here. I'm losing my train of thought. I wouldn't be surprised if the Canucks make a move sometime soon
Hmm.
because Antoine Roussel is coming back and they don't have cap space. And Pierre Dorian was just at the Vancouver Oilers game yesterday.
Right.
The Ottawa Senators are, of course, in Vancouver for a game tomorrow night on Tuesday. But there's kind of a little mini rumor that he was scouting the team for Loui Eriksson. Now, I don't know why they would really want him, but they could potentially get something else out of it from Vancouver.
Yes, that would be a
Um,
cap dump, and we're taking an extra asset, I think.
yeah, absolutely. So Vancouver has it's really been widely publicized that they want to move him. And I think Ottawa being Ottawa, they're kind of the the lead cap dump right now, as long as the bonuses have all been paid.
Yeah, I was just
um,
gonna say, as long as the contract was front loaded and the bonuses are done, they are very much the
I'm
place to go.
interested. So that
And
could be a potential
yeah,
move. And then
so Loui Eriksson's
yeah,
contract right now, most of the salary or most of the contract was signing bonuses, and a lot of that's been paid out already.
so it's getting spicier.
Yeah, it was a slightly front loaded contract, so that would be appealing to them.
Yeah, so I could see them. I mean, I don't know how many picks they have or anything, but I could see them making a move to get rid of him. I don't know if they'd really get anything back. I mean, they have to get something. So maybe just like some, like a pick swap or something like
Right
that.
now, Yeah, right now Vancouver I think would be best served by trying to find a way to get defensive prospects.
Yeah,
Ideally ones that are a
it's
year or two into development already, because they're gonna need that to be coming up way quicker than they probably anticipated
mhm,
with how their offense and how their forwards have panned out so far.
right. And they've traded away their first round pick to Tampa Bay already for JT Miller.
I think he was worth it though
Yeah, he's been a
so far.
huge part of that team. He's like a
He's
point per game.
dangerous. Yeah,
Yeah, he's been
watching him
good.
in the Canucks Oilers home and home over the weekend was it was actually a surprise. I did not realize he was that effective of a player. And he finds his way into the right spots on the ice, and he's fast and he's dangerous. And I think the trade got a lot of shit at the time for being way too much for him, but I think it's worth a first round pick right now.
Yeah, yeah, he's been a big part of that team. And the Canucks have gone kind of through like a bit of a overhaul and a facelift. They're actually a really fun team to watch this year. And it's not just because of Pedersen like last year. Last year it was like, okay, Pedersen, Besser. And this year they're a fun team to watch. They're exciting. They score a lot of goals. They move the puck really, really quick. They're fun. And I think that we could see a move because they want to bring Roussel in, and they've already healthy scratched Loui Eriksson a number of times this year. So if they're going to move him, I think Ottawa's the only team that's willing to take that contract. It's just going to be a matter
At
of
this point,
what would a trade even look like? Like who do you think they would want? Because they're not getting much.
no. Taking a quick look into Ottawa's roster here just to see kind of what they have. Like I just mentioned, on the defensive side of things, how they might be more interested in taking. I think yeah, that'd be a hard one to pick up because they like Ottawa's got guys like DeMello and Max Lajoie, kind of those like fringe-ish but younger on the younger side NHL or NHL ready defensemen.
hmm
Um, obviously guys like they're the top end defensive prospects are out of the question on something like that because there's quite simply not enough value going in there. But would they even be interested in taking the draft pick? Because Ottawa's got a lot in the first 3 rounds next year, or first 2 rounds next draft.
Yeah, I could see just late round pick.
If we go with that type too.
I think Ottawa would be doing them a huge solid, so they'd have to get something else. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that's where I struggle to see just a player for pick. Like Ottawa's going to be getting something, some like another asset in return for that because there's no way Vancouver's going to get like anything of value for just Eriksson. But though to be honest, getting rid of his contract would be enough value to negate that anyways.
something will happen there.
Let's wait until next month when the trade market starts to heat up.
Is there any news on that Stevenson trade? Right when we started recording, there was a confirmation that Chandler Stevenson was getting traded to the Vegas Golden Knights. I don't really know.
Capitals acquire a fifth round pick in the 2021 NHL entry draft. So you called it. You said a fourth or a
Ah,
fifth.
nice.
Yep. So good job on that, NHL insider Burke.
He's a he's a good like fourth line guy. He's a really fast player. He's got some playmaking abilities. Sometimes he can't do anything. He's a good penalty killer. So um, I'm not sure if Vegas's penalty kill has struggled this year, or if they even have room for him in their lineup. But
I think Vegas's entire forward lineup is their penalty kill, to be honest.
yeah,
It's a
yeah, good point.
prerequisite to play on Vegas that you have to be able to kill penalties.
Good point. I know they're not where they want to be in standings, so it makes sense to pick up
Vegas has
another
developed
guy.
a reputation early for being able to take these kind of fringe guys from other teams and turn them into valuable pieces on their own team.
Yeah.
And you're talking about Stevenson being kind of a streaky but fast and defensively sound forward. So he's probably going to fit in. He's probably going to fit in well enough in their bottom six forwards.
Yeah, I've always liked Chandler Stevenson. He's just kind of been bumped out of the depth chart um, in Washington. Um, as I mentioned a couple podcasts ago, how exciting our fourth line is to watch, and that he wasn't a part of it. He's been riding the press box lately. So
He's been the
it's
13th guy there, so
kind of reminds me of like that Josh Levo Toronto situation where they just don't really have a spot for him, so they work to try and get him somewhere
to give
else.
him a shot somewhere else.
Yeah, because he's good enough to play in the bottom, I would say the fourth line somewhere. It's just not going to be in Washington full time. So I think I'm happy with that trade. Get something for him and he
Yeah,
gets to
get
play.
something anyways, and yeah, kind of good for all the parties.
I wonder if he's a guy that McPhee drafted. Probably.
When yeah, I'm not sure on the timeline on those guys.
Yeah, he probably is. Is there any other storylines or teams that you want to talk about?
I think that about wraps it up on my end. Yeah,
Yeah.
so thank you all for listening again this week. We appreciate that. If you like what you're listening to, make sure you share it on your social media. Spread the word of Clappercast. To stay up to date on any content and updates we have through the week, make sure you follow us on Instagram at Clappercast Media or on Twitter at Clappercast. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.